Hello, everyone. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the new episode of Entrepreneurship Lab. This is your host, Nevena Bazalac, welcoming you once again to the podcast where we help you grow and scale your business by bringing you expertise, discussing different topics, and things that are very important to know when you are building a business. Today, we have a special guest with us, and we're talking about topic that's so important, and that's digital marketing. We're going to talk about SEO, we're going to talk about AI, so please help me welcome Corey Morris to the show. He is the CEO of Voltage. It's a premier digital agency company, and they're focused on digital marketing and website. He has awards behind him, 20 years of experience, and today he will share with us what's changing now in digital marketing and what you should focus on. So, Corey, welcome to the show, and thank you for being here.
Yeah, excited to talk with you. Thanks for having me.
So before we dig into AI, digital marketing, SEO, and everything, I want to ask you how you started as an entrepreneur. Was it something from early age? Have you been in corporate world? How was your journey starting your business and your agency?
Yeah, I started exploring entrepreneurship when I was a kid, and had a chance to take some entrepreneurship classes in high school. And so that got me interested in the business world. I didn't know what my first business would be or what it would look like. Fast forward, I got my business and marketing degree and started in an ad agency as an employee and worked from the bottom up. You fast forward a number of years, and I was in a leadership position in an agency and worked through a plan to buy out and succeed one of the original founders of that agency. So I went from employee to owner, um, 15 years into my career. And
Wow.
so it wasn't that I just started it from scratch, and so I sat in pretty much every seat along the way before being the owner and sitting in the CEO seat.
Yeah, and that tells me a lot about you as a person, as an employee, and how you probably from the day one really give yourself into your work. Because you would not just become a partner if you didn't care and you really didn't contribute so much. So talking about that, a lot of people have businesses, they're looking for the staff, and this is maybe even like a dream outcome. Someone that's gonna look at your company like it's theirs. So, what was it for you, or what do you think is the difference to find those kind of people? Or is it a combination of the culture of the company and the right people? Is it only on the people? So, what do you think?
Yeah, so there are a lot of big lessons I learned personally came through having room to make mistakes, as well as also having plenty of room to have some big successes that I contributed to or had a hand in creating. And so I've tried to maintain that, and so that's been a big part of the culture when I was, a manager to then being the owner, that I've tried to maintain. And so there have been times where we've had to recover from some mistakes, but I'd rather allow people to do that than to feel managed. I'd rather them be led and to teach that leadership and instill that culture in them for them to have that level of trust in their people too, as I train other managers and other people who are growing in the company. So again, it's scary at first because, you may have to go fix a problem, but I'd rather go fix a few problems than to have people, hit a ceiling and then not know what their growth plan is and then leave.
Yeah, and not try, not take risks, or not try something different, especially in the world we're talking about digital marketing and things changing, AI developing so much. So, how AI has changed SEO? I see it's changing so much, and it can actually benefit entrepreneurs in some ways. Can you tell us a little bit about the changes that's happening with AI and SEO?
Yeah, and so in some ways it's disruptive, and day to day we're figuring out and learning new things, which can be a challenge and be a frustration. Where it was stable for a long time, there was always change, but it was more stable, and we were more just dependent on Google what Google would say and following their best practices while also pushing for what's next. Now there's so much disruption because we're getting less traffic than ever from the search engines as Google's holding on to it, answering questions directly. And the AI and LLMs have emerged and are now people are doing searches and looking for information and researching there and asking questions and prompting. And so there's not just the one big category of Google and a small category of the rest of the traffic anymore. And that's definitely changed things. So that's an opportunity to be found in more places, to do new things, but to continue to produce great content, to build your brand and to be found for the expertise that you have. And so getting the traffic that you get, we're focusing on quality and not quantity, which we should have always been doing,
Yes, but
and most of my clients care more about quality and not quantity, but some of those vanity metrics and things that we were measuring or that have been measured or popular in the past don't matter as much. It's more about getting the right traffic, more of a one-to-one personalized experience for that right target audience, customer or prospect to get there and to make sure we don't lose them, but
yeah,
because they don't remember us and go back and prompt something
yeah.
else or search something else and or we answered their question but we didn't help them take a next step along the way.
Yeah, exactly. And what I love, it was so interesting because now we are using ChatGPT and some other AIs. But what I really love, for example, recently I was traveling in Europe and I was with my girlfriends on a girl trip in Barcelona. So we were asking like what to do, and then we wanted to purchase tickets for certain museums and things, and there were different platforms. And we were asking, hey, is this platform legit? Is it good? And what was so fascinating, because exactly what you're saying, somebody can maybe not have the best service, but if they put a lot of money in marketing before, they would be on top of SEO and maybe you would purchase. But now ChatGPT would give us all negative reviews as well and say, this is not very, there are these reviews and this many. And we were like so fascinated that we actually went and we bought from another platform. That's how powerful this is, because it's not anymore the game of, I feel, who's gonna, of course, there's always gonna be the budget of marketing and how much you can put, but the AI is gonna bring all those reviews, all those comments, some research. It's not perfect, but it's definitely changing. So for me, that was very interesting. And we found so many events, so many things happening from ChatGPT. And even I remember one owner told us, many people are telling me they're coming to our event from ChatGPT. Like that was so interesting for them. So I can definitely see that changing and people are using it more.
Yeah, there's still a lot of things that work well for in search engines. And thankfully, from my team's perspective, a lot of the best practices and things that we've been doing over the past several years are also best practices and things that are helping our clients get found through
Yeah.
AI as well. And so it's not been too big of a shift, but it's definitely different ways that people consume content, to your point of double checking things or asking questions in a different way. It's different than just typing a search in or doing a voice search with a speaker. There's a lot of back and forth interaction with it to get to what your ultimate conclusion is. There's still a lot of junk too where it
Yeah.
hallucinates, right? And I have to question it even on my own stuff. I'm like, wait a minute, where did you get that from? That page doesn't exist. That company does not do that service.
Yeah.
But to your point, it can definitely help in some beneficial ways that even just months ago seemed like more of a challenge.
So, Corey, you're very big on planning and helping entrepreneurs and business owner planning. So, we're going to talk a bit more about that. So, what is the start planning process when it comes to digital marketing? Like, where to start, where to begin?
Yeah, so planning in this age of AI is not a sexy topic, but it's something that is critically important as so many things are changing, and having a framework so you're not chasing all the shiny objects and new things or stuck in old ways and everything passes you by. So I wrote a book called The Digital Marketing Success Plan. And in it, that's where I unpack my 5 step start process. And so that process, when we guide clients through it, typically do it in 4 to 6 weeks. but I give the whole thing away in here for anyone to implement and or take parts and pieces of it to supplement your own planning process. But basically, before I get into it, the key for me is we don't want to just rush into starting social media marketing or Google ads and giving money to Facebook or Google or creating a whole bunch of content that costs us time or money to create and hope that we're going to get a return on investment on that or get the results we want. In many cases, people will say, well, you should be doing 7 posts on social media or LinkedIn a week and write 3 blog posts and do a podcast. Well, where did those numbers come from? And are those right for me? And if that's a lot of work and taking my focus away from other parts of my business and running my business, I should get some value out of those and return on those and not just be doing them as an activity and then 6 months or a year later wonder why I did it at all. Or if I should be doing those and I have a plan for those, make sure that I don't stop doing them 2 months in when I get really busy in other parts of life and then lose the momentum I'm building. So that's really the reason why having a plan matters, because it gives us accountability. It gives us the right actions to take based on the research to tell us these are the right things we should be doing, and helps us not get off track down the road when we get busy and distracted by other things. So that's really the goal of it. And I can jump in to start if you want me to unpack those 5 steps.
Yeah, absolutely. But I want to pause for a second because I love how real you are, and me also working with different industries, consulting, coaching over the years. I really always say, and me working with different mentors, I saw that, not everything works for everyone. Not everything works in the different territories. There are different challenges you're gonna have. Marketing is so dependent sometimes on, where you are, who is your target audience. And something that's brilliant for some people, let's say Instagram, something can be not waste of time completely, but it's not your number one place where you should market to get your clients. So I think it's so important to try, test. I love that you're being real and telling people, like, don't just put money, to every agency that tells you just we pay ads. And because I tried so many things and I tell my clients, I think this will work for you and this will not, like we test, you try, and then you see where the traction coming, where the people actually coming, where my real customers and clients coming from. So I really loved how you are being honest and real, and this is real experience for me. Someone who understands and know not every type of marketing is working for every brand or every company or every industry. So it's very much different. But let's go into definitely. I want to hear more about planning process. What are the steps? And yeah, what are those 5 steps, and what should we do when we are planning our digital marketing?
Yeah, so it starts with strategy. So starts with strategy, and that's the S. And strategy is really important because if we don't know the numbers and how we make money from marketing, or how marketing leads to sales or revenue, then we're just doing this as a set of activities without an end goal in mind. And so working backwards, sometimes it's easy to work backwards and your numbers and your margins and exactly what every visitor or every goal or conversion or what happens on your website translates over to business. Sometimes it's really complicated, or you might be a service business or a coach, and you've got a 6-month or year-long sales cycle, and there are many touch points before someone reaches out and calls you, or they're consuming your content before they sign on with you. So no matter what that process looks like, we have to know what that end goal is, the business outcome, not the marketing metric, but the business outcome, and work backwards and map our metrics to that. And in some cases, if you've got a team or a large team, or we've worked with Fortune 500 companies at times, and there may be disagreement on that, or it may be really hard to get to those numbers, or they may be, you may have multiple systems that's hard to work through. And so understanding that and landing on what that goal is and what you can do to get there is critical in that strategy phase. And from there, then it gets a little bit easier, because then we can move into the first T, which is tactics. And so in many cases, I find that if we skip the strategy and just start with tactics and just start with Facebook ads, Instagram, start with Google or anything else, or try to write for SEO, that's where we do the expensive experiments, because that's where we're just doing stuff and hoping it works. And so this is where, with that strategy in mind and knowing that we need X number of visitors per month. Okay, now where are the channels? What are the platforms? What are the places that we can go get those? And how much does it cost to get those? And so this is where we can use some of the industry leading research tools and try to get this information in advance versus just trying stuff and throwing it at the wall to see what sticks later. And so this is where we can stack the different tactics and do the research and understand exactly what's going to be in that plan. So after we have those tactics in line, now it all gets a lot easier because we know what our strategy is, what our goals are, what tactics are going to be in the mix. Now we move into the A, which is for application. And this is looking at the assets and things that we're going to need to create all the things that will drive the tactics. And so that could be ad creative, that could be post copy, that could be content that we need to write, that could be video content we need to create, or that could be also an overhaul or revamp to our website to make sure it really supports all the needs of this plan and the strategy. So, all right, so we've got the goals, we've got the tactics, we have the assets mapped out in the application phase. We don't want to forget about reporting and understanding what's happening. So review is the R, and this is where we need to go beyond just what Google Analytics or GA4 does out of the box for us, but we need to make sure that we can connect all the way through to what an in sale is. If it's e-commerce, make sure that we're getting the e-commerce data flowing back and forth. If we're doing lead generation, make sure our CRM or however we're tracking our sales process to know that this visitor went all the way through to being a booked client or customer and what the revenue is off of that to understand ROI. So out of the box, none of these systems talk to each other or work the way we need them to. And so it's getting that in place so we don't lose the data and we're not guessing when we get going. And then the last T and the last phase is transformation. This is where we document our plan. This is where we block out and assign tasks to resources. This is where we make sure that whether our plan is a long document or it's in a deck or we have a one pager, whatever it looks like. And I give an example outline in the book to make it more tangible, but it can look a lot of different ways based on how you've worked through this process. But this is where we make sure we have things scheduled out and we don't drop off halfway through or 2 months in when things get busy, or we have a plan for what happens if our copywriter goes on vacation, or our web developer goes on parental leave, or something like that. And so we can make sure it keeps going and there's accountability to it. And also that it's not just in one person's head. And if that person leaves the company or gets busy, that it doesn't go out the door with them. And so that brings it all together. That's the 5 steps. Work through that up front, and you're going to have a solid plan for success.
Yeah, I love the analogy. I love how clear it is. So I think everyone listening can really get some tips and start using and thinking and be very clear where they need further help, where they can improve when it comes to their digital marketing. And so thank you for sharing this, Corey. I'm going to invite everyone to go and connect with you and go get your book as well to, get more information, help with planning their digital marketing. And as we are wrapping the episode, I want to ask you one question I love to ask all my guests. If there is something you wish you knew earlier building your business or in marketing, for example, that you think could help you scale yourself or your client's business faster, what do you think that would be when you say, oh, I wish I knew that earlier? Like, it took a while to get to that moment, but it's really a aha moment for you because that can really help everyone who are listening.
Yeah, so I'll point back to what we just for a moment about what we talked about in culture at the beginning. So that's critical. And assuming that's in place and you've got a strong culture and values and everybody's going in the same direction, then I will say what I wish I'd learned earlier were some of the key business metrics and benchmarks to run my business by. We went through a season where we tripled, almost quadrupled in top line revenue, doubled our staff over 3 or 4 years. We broke all of our processes. We were just growing so fast. We were adding clients, adding employees, but we were operating off of a bunch of metrics, but we weren't operating off of some key ones like adjusted gross income and net profit and some of the overhead expenses in between to make sure we were scaling bottom line equal to the top line. And so, yes, there are seasons where you're investing every dollar back into your growth, but without a long-term 3-year, 5-year, 10-year plan for where you're going and some of those key metrics and indicators along the way, um, you're doing it without some of the purpose and intentionality. And I say you, but I mean, I say that based on me and what I did or didn't do. And so
Yeah.
that's my advice, is to make sure that you understand however aggressive you want to be or however stable and scaled you want to be in your growth plan for your company, have those key metrics that mean more than just the top line or how or the number of people, and make sure it's in alignment with where you want to be. Otherwise, you're going to have a lot of stress, like I did, over things that break. And when you finally have it slow down and take a moment, you'll realize that, hey, did we make any more money, or am I losing people because I can't give them raises because we're doing this in a way where we looked at top line and not bottom line metrics.
I love that. And I always say, working with so many companies, first is when we start, we just want clients and sales and revenue, but actually managing growth is so much harder, much more complicated than getting the clients. Getting clients can be so easy. But when you really start scaling and like you said, you quadruple your revenue and the systems are not supporting and yeah, you just in such a rush, such a stress. But it is part of the game. I think part of an experience where you learn so much and then you're like, okay, let's do better. What should we do better? And sometimes you think you're making more money, but actually profit is not. It can be even less with less clients, but that's the learning of business and numbers and everything. So thank you, Corey, for being here and sharing all of this with us. Is there any last advice you would like to share with the listeners?
I'm not trying to sell anybody anything, but I would just point anybody who's interested to go grab the book, because it's a cheap option, and I unpack all of that in way more detail. I give it all away there. And if, anyone who wants to reach out, feel free. No sales pitch.
Yes,
I'd be happy to
for
help or
sure.
point to any other resources.
For sure, I'm inviting everyone to get your book. I always say book, somebody spent 20, 30 years learning something and they pack it in, 100 pages and you can learn and get so much knowledge. So we invite everyone to get Corey's book, connect with Corey, reach out if you want to learn more. As always, give us some likes, hearts, comment what would you like to hear more in the next episode, and share this with at least one entrepreneur that can also benefit from this information. Thank you everyone for listening, and I see you in the next episode.